What's good, Wagering World? It's your boy Five Star in Vegas, broadcasting live as always from beautiful Summerlin, Nevada. In there with my co-host, my guy, the only Sacramento Kings fan that I know. What's good, Spread Astaire? How are you today?
Man, it's getting close here. A couple weeks away. We got real college football this weekend, and then, of course, the NFL in a couple weeks. I cannot wait.
Nah, I can't wait either, man. It's our time of the year, my birthday week. Birthday's coming up in a couple days, man. And college football, this is my favorite time of the year, man. I'm really blessed to be here to see it again, man. And I'm very grateful. I'm going to make the most of it. I told you we got Noops coming in town most
Yep.
likely this weekend, too. So I'm going to get a chance to kick you with a great friend of ours and a friend of the show, man. Today we're going to break down some Big 12. We have a really special guest in with us that we're going to bring in a few minutes that actually has a lot of information on Baylor and on the Big 12 as a whole. He's an alumni and a very connected guy in that Waco region, man. So let's kick off a little bit about the Big 12. Who's favorite to win the Big 12? Because the one thing about the Big 12, it seems like every year spread is that let them tell the Texas is back. So what
Yep.
do they got the Longhorns odds at this year?
So Texas is slightly in second at plus 250. We got Oklahoma at plus 225. And we had talked real quick, before we jumped on, and you were talking about a lot of the questions around Oklahoma. Still, me personally feel a lot safer than I'd rather have that Oklahoma ticket than the Texas ticket because it just feels like Texas is a bunch of hype around the fact that it's just such a traditionally great program, but the results haven't been there in recent years. Would you agree with me that you'd rather have an Oklahoma ticket than a Texas ticket?
I definitely rather have an Oklahoma ticket. Oklahoma has a great coach that they've hired. I don't expect them to step back as much as people thinking that they're going to step back. They hired longtime assistant to Dabo Sweeney, one of the best defensive coordinators out there, to be the head coach, and Brent Venables. And I think Brent Venables has been around the game long enough, and he picked his spots to become the head coach. He's got many offers every offseason. Teams have wanted Brent Venables to become the lead of their program. He waited till the right program came about, picked a storied program, and one with a lot of tradition. I like the move that he made at offense. He's bringing in Dylan Gabriel, but not only is he bringing in Dylan Gabriel, he's bringing Jeff Libby in. Jeff Libby was the offensive coordinator at UCF when Dylan Gabriel really tore up college football in 2019. They've worked together. They run a fast-paced offense. I like Dylan Gabriel a lot. He's somewhat athletic, not crazy athleticism, but very accurate throwing the ball. He's a lefty. I think he's going to have a big season in the Big 12 this year. Has great weapons on the outside, so you're completely right with liking Oklahoma over Texas. You got Marvin Mims, who's has a chance actually to contend for the Heisman if he gets enough balls, man. He's going to get a lot this year with the transfers that they lost to USC that followed Lincoln Riley out to LA. So he'll be the main guy with Mario Williams, I believe is his name, transferred to USC, the other starting receiver. So look for Marvin Mims and Dylan Gabriel to have a big season in the Big 12. As you said, man, Texas, I got to watch Quinn Ewers play. He didn't get on the field for Ohio State. He couldn't beat out the starting quarterback at Ohio State. So I don't really know much of him. I've seen some tape in high school, but high school competition and college competition is completely different. So I don't know what to expect at the quarterback position from Texas. Hudson Card is the second quarterback, 1B, I would say, because they say they don't know if they're going to start either yet. He's decent. He impressed me his first start, but as the year went, he didn't get any better. So the Texas had a down year last year with 5-7. The best thing they have going there, it's almost like that year when Ricky Williams won the Heisman. Excuse me, I didn't get any water. When Ricky Williams won the Heisman, Ricky Williams didn't have much of a team around him, but he was so electrifying and played so well in big games. He still was won the Heisman, and I could expect Bijan Robinson to make that same type of push for the Heisman. He's a big-time running back. And they have lost some people, too, already in spring. They lost a big player to them in Roshan. He's the backup running back, number 2. I forgot his last name, but see the Williams, I believe. But Roshan is their running back / quarterback. He got hurt, unfortunately, in leading up to the season, and he looked like he was going to be out for the rest of the year. So it'll be all on Bijan Robinson now in the backfield with his backup getting injured. I'm sure Texas has some good young recruits that'll come in and get some runs, but they'll definitely miss the backup. But as I told you, I'm not sold on Texas. I would definitely take that Oklahoma ticket over them.
All right, the 2 teams at plus 600, Baylor and Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State is a good team. They have a really good quarterback coming back again this year. He was injured, coming off an injury last year, so we didn't see the best of him. But last year, he got back to his normal self. He's a dynamic passer, also can run the ball well. Did really well in big games for them. Talking about Spencer Sanders, the quarterback for Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State turns out receivers like it's nothing, so I'm sure that Gundy will have some receivers that are ready to play. Their defense is always solid. Their defensive line is always solid. I like what I see from Oklahoma State, and especially with them having their signal caller back. Baylor is a little bit more of a mystery for me because I really like Dave Aranda a lot. He's probably top 5 for me in college right now in head coaches. Now can he do it again? Great job last year building a wonderful team, but he lost so many people. He lost both his running backs. He lost his top receivers. He lost 4 of his top 5 tacklers on defense. They're doing they're running with the quarterback who actually got some playing time and actually won the Big 12 game for them before getting injured. He's going to be the quarterback, and he gave him the reins. And the guy Bohannon, who had been running the team pretty much the whole season, ended up transferring to UCF. So I'll be very, very interested to see if Shapen is an upgrade over Bohannon, and also how the new people that they have running at their skill positions show up. That's what we're going to bring in. Let's bring in our insider right now. Let's bring in Dr. Christopher Lavergne, good friend of mine. How you doing, Doc?
Great morning, guys. How y'all doing?
Great. Glad to have you on.
Great.
Well, great, man. Let's ask Doc a couple questions about Baylor. He's an alumni, has a good ear for what's going on in the program, because Baylor's the most interesting school to me. They're the ones who I'd really like to get a ticket on, but I have to find out from Doc and see if it's worth getting out there with a plus 600 on them with so much turnover at so many important positions. I know they do have their 5 offensive linemen back, though, and I like that a lot. So what do you think about Shapen over Bohannon, Doc?
Well, it's interesting choice in making that decision so early in the spring that Aranda made that choice, and he announced it so early, which you really don't see a lot of time coaches doing that. They'll drag a player along, so you never know if someone's going to get hurt, and I thought it was just huge to really give that opportunity to Shapen earlier, name him back in April. And it gave Bohannon a chance to go to UCF, like you mentioned, and actually earn the starting position. And how many coaches would have kept that guy around and just say, well, you never know, it's still a competition, and let's see what happens in the fall. And next, doesn't get the position, he's going to run out of eligibility years, and now he's sitting on the bench watching things. So I thought that was great. He's done a great job for Baylor, and how he really looks at. You hear him talk, he'll tell things like, well, I had to make a decision about Gary the player versus Gary the man. And he'll look at things both ways. And so it's interesting. I think they really thought that they'd gotten the most they could out of Bohannon, and they knew what his ceiling was, and they felt like Shapen's ceiling could be higher. And apparently the leadership skills that Shapen has had, and how the other players have gravitated to him, has really made that decision. So my worry is just his like most college quarterbacks, is how likely is to get injured. I mean, he played one game fully, and that was the Big 12 championship game, like you mentioned. And here he gets a shoulder injury, can't play much in the Sugar Bowl, and Bohannon comes in and plays well, even though he had a hurt knee. And Kansas State game at the end of the year. So it was interesting to see. I think the upside for Shapen and is higher, and so they went with him. And I think their O line is going to be ranked, probably 5th in the nation this year. So you mentioned all those guys coming back, and that's going to help him. It's going to help, and I think that's where it's going to help their running game and their the running game was interesting. They took the linebacker and turned him into a running back last year, and now they have a wide receiver. They turned into a running back this year, and I think with the O line being what it is, and they don't have the skilled players like you mentioned in wide receiver, but hopefully they can protect Shapen enough. Running back do what they need to do and see how they do. But I agree with you. I'd rather have that probably a Baylor ticket over a UT ticket, and probably an OU ticket over a UT ticket for sure.
Yeah.
And you like them more than Oklahoma State too?
Oklahoma State's interesting. I think they'll be right there. I think it's really going to be Oklahoma State, and Baylor at the end of it. UT could really kind of come in, but again, you kind of want to see it from them. I mean, when's the last time you really saw it from them? So it's kind of just, at least that they're going to be there, and who knows what yours is going to look like. The biggest drawback for Baylor this year, as much as it was an advantage last year, is this year they'll go to Austin and they go to Norman. They also go to Provo to play BYU, which early on, second game of the year. So that'll be interesting to see that contest and see where they're going to be. But I like my ticket of Baylor over 6.5 wins. I think it is right, 7 wins, or 7.5 wins. So I like that better than a Big 12 championship ticket. We got a good friend of ours who's an O lineman for OU, and he's really happy with Venerable there. And he transferred from Cal, and they're really up on him. And so I just know it's new coach. You never know how the first year is going to go, no matter how good he may be down the road. So I think it's a toss up. Any of those 4 schools could do it. You got a little better odds on OSU. I might take the higher odds on that, and just knowing Baylor's schedule this year, it's gonna be a little more difficult.
Yeah, Baylor's been taking money. They're up to over 7.5 on bookmaker, juice to the over. So obviously a lot of bettors agree with you there. It's minus 160 over 7.5. Now I just pulled it up one book. I'm sure if you shop around, you can find a little better. But to me, bookmaker is pretty indicative of how the best bettors on the offshore market feel, because they don't kick people out. So they take the most sharp action in my mind. So to me, I
took mine a couple of weeks ago. So
you were right with the market agrees with you, man. And a lot of people have been piling on that bet.
Yeah, I got a friend out of Oklahoma too that just kind of following up on what Doc was saying about he had a guy out of Oklahoma that was saying good things about Venables. I have actually 2 guys who are really, really close. So one of my buddies actually works with the team on a daily, and he says that the buzz on those practices is unbelievable. He said it's looking real up for them. And he was saying that their receivers are going to really, really, really be good this season. They say he's one kid that's coming in. It's like 6'4" that he's snatching everything out there. And you already had some Mims running like a 4.2, and you got an accurate quarterback, and that Venables is going to be able to do something with the defense. And while Oklahoma is definitely a better ticket than Texas, also is because Oklahoma is a very prideful program. Just think about last year after he left and the coach left and went to USC. What did they do? They still were able to bring Stoops out of retirement and stand up and blow out Oregon in a bowl game with a coach who hasn't coached there in 10 years, who just pulls up and, takes over, because those guys got that type of pride in that program. So I really think they're going to have a good season this year, just simply because everyone's kind of counting them out. And look how Lincoln Riley kind of made them look, with him going to USC and everything. So I think we'll get the best out of Oklahoma this year. Now it boils down to whether their head coach can, take the transition from being a coordinator who's only dealing with one side of the ball to now being able to general manage the team and kind of, come up with ways that make sure that everything's working in cohesion and making some important decisions at different times. Another thing I want to ask you about, Dr. Lavergne, was what do you think the Big 12 goes from here? With soon we got Oklahoma and Texas that are already committed to going to the SEC. Will there be a Big 12, or will they expand? What teams are you hearing they might add? What do you see for the Big 12 in the coming years?
That's tough. I think it's certainly no conference is going to be better losing OU and Texas for sure, despite what how Texas has been lately. I still think what they've done, and I like the teams they've added. U of H is great. BYU coming on board is certainly going to give some added viewers, and then you go all the way out to getting UCF and then bringing in what else they bring in weather school, right? But so I think you're still looking at that. My question is really what happens with the Big Ten, and that's what's going to. I mean, does the Big Ten try to pull in an Oklahoma State or an Iowa State even? Those type of schools that could come in. And we're not done. So I don't know that the Big 12 is going to look to take on more than what they've taken on until they see what the repercussions are from other conferences leveling out. It's still going to be good. It's still going to be good competition. I mean, you have, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech's not going to be far off. They got, great, coach now. He actually came from Baylor, and he'll do really well there. It may take him a couple of years to do well, but I think Big 12 is still going to be around. It's still going to be a say so, but is anybody really going to have a say so if the Big 10 and the Big 12 really and the SEC really develop into a big 16 team conference? Is there anybody else that's going to pay attention to anybody? Whether you're Washington or Arizona or Arizona State or Oregon, and now there's some talk about UCLA might not be able to go to the Big Ten. You hear about that because of the state education board, so they have to get permission apparently. Where the USC is private, so there's some
private.
That's not done. I still think it's a favorite that UCLA goes. But there's some talk that they have to go through the California Education Board to get approval, and they didn't do that. And it may just be a matter of rubber stamping it, but I don't know. So we'll see. Does they signed these big deals with Fox now that Big Ten signed with, and will they go and does that make a difference if UCLA is not there? Do they go to an Oregon or a Washington if UCLA can't actually go? And who knows? But anyway, from the Big 12 standpoint, I think it's going to be who else might get picked off, and then decide what they do. I don't see them going expanding right now until other things settle out.
What you think, Spread?
I wouldn't be surprised if the UC Board of Regents blocked that move. They've made decisions in the past where money's not been the thing. So UCLA would get twice as much revenue from television if they went there. I don't know if they really care about there. There's a lot of people on that board, and there's going to be a lot of pressures from the other schools, namely like Cal Berkeley, which has a lot of sway there. But just the other schools in general, a lot of the Los Angeles schools are going to be in line. There's going to be some pressure there. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out and who they ended up grabbing. But if I were to guess right now, I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA got blocked. Now, will that stop it? I don't know. Maybe there's further legislation behind that. But just knowing how the UC Boards of Regents has acted in the past, I would not be surprised to see that UCLA move get blocked.
And he's a lifetime Californian, guys.
Yeah.
He's born and raised in California in the state capital.
Yeah.
So he's pretty in tune with how they think about doing laws out there and how the lawmakers think. And you're right, because they always talk about that, about like that one of the reasons that they feel like the football and basketball programs are suffering now is because it's a lot more interest in the arts now in California than it is into sports. We're actually trying to take away money from a lot of the athletic departments. I'm hearing out that way. And lastly, before we got out of here with you, Doc. So who wins the Big 12 this year? The schedule pretty good of all these teams. How do you think it shakes out at the end?
I think at the end it's probably going to come down to Oklahoma. Just knowing, it's probably Oklahoma with my pick. disappointed, but I think Baylor's going to be right there. I think Baylor's going to be right there in the last week. It's going to come down to one game. And so it's going to be interesting. Whether they get to the Big 12 championship, is it OU OSU or Baylor OU? I think that's kind of my choice. I think Baylor will still be very good, and Aranda's done an outstanding job. But so that's kind of my choice. It'll be down to OU. Let's say OU and Baylor. See how it ends up.
All right.
Yeah, so you think that OU wins this side and Baylor wins this side, and they meet up in the Big 12 championship, basically. And I know Baylor travels to Oklahoma this year on their schedule, but I saw Oklahoma's schedule. It's not as tough as Baylor's this year at all.
No.
Oklahoma got a pretty light schedule this year. So if this was going to be the first time for Venables to come in the Big 12, they gave him a decent road schedule. I think he can handle going to Iowa State, and I think they got Kansas State as the other road test that they have.
They play Tech. Tech, and Tech is not going to be.
What do you think about K-State, though, Doc? I really like Chris Kleiman. He's a good coach, in my opinion, and they do have a transfer coming over, the kid Martinez from Nebraska.
Yeah, I haven't kept up as much with them lately. They'll be in the mix. I think you can throw them in the middle with TCU and Tech, and they'll be the middle tier of an Iowa State probably. Iowa State's got a lot to overcome from losing Purdy, and so we'll see. But that coach at Iowa State's really good too, so he'll do well.
How's the coach that you said that left Baylor that's going over there to Texas Tech? You said that the coach used to be a Baylor coach, right?
Yeah, he's really good. His name escapes me. Coach. See, and he was who's the coach now? I'll think of it. He let's see, coach. So he left Mcguire, Joey Mcguire. So he's the head coach now. Yeah, he was well connected, great with high school. High school coaches loved him, and I think it's going to help. He'll be really good, but it's going to take him a couple of years to develop. He's never been a head coach before, so he was assistant head coach.
He's more of a recruiter. He's more of a recruiter.
He's a big recruiter, and he did, he really did like special teams running back coach.
Okay.
He wasn't as much of a head coach type thing, but he was a big recruiter, had a lot of connections with the high schools. You know how that works here in Texas. And and he's a rah guy. I mean, he'll get those kids motivated. It's good to see him go. He's a good guy. It's good to see him get an opportunity. I wish it had been outside of the Big 12.
Right.
But he'll do well. He just he's one of the guys that just instantly kind of like him. So, but it may take him a little time to do it. But they'll be middle of the pack. Probably just a toss up between K-State, Texas Tech, Iowa State. Will be kind of middle of the pack there and see where they level out.
Nice. Okay, man. That's my good friend, Dr. Christopher Lavergne. He's a Big 12 insider, Baylor alum, really a close friend of mine, man. We always talk sports, man, and I really, really go to him anytime I need any information about the Big 12. We appreciate you coming on, Doc, and we will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dre. Thanks a lot, Spread. Y'all take care.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
That was Dr. Christopher Lavergne, man. A lot of good information there, man, that he gave us about those programs out in the Big 12. Who do you think wins the Big 12 spread?
I mean, I'm just going off, some slight research here, but if our guy says Oklahoma, I'm fine with that. And I think you make a great point on these schedules, and that's one thing with the college team. Sometimes getting the other big program at home helps a lot, right? Rather than having to travel for them. So
yeah, and they play Texas. It's that's a neutral game every year.
It's a neutral game no matter what. Yeah,
no matter what. And it'll always the problem with Texas. They always have talent, but they can't play defense anymore. I don't know what happened. Somewhere along the line, they became a team that had a lot of really good skilled players, offensive linemen, but they struggled to find defense. And as you remember, there used to be some real studs that came out of Texas, like my guy Earl that played for Seattle. Unfortunately, he's going through some legal problems with his wife right now. I pray that they are able to get that fixed and worked out and everything. But that crew of guys that came out of Texas had a lot of really good defensive players, man. And ever since that class, we haven't seen much from the Longhorns on the defensive side. And that's what they continue to struggle with. So they can get Arch Manning and whoever to go with Steve Sarkisian and his great offensive mind. You have to stop someone. You can't, outscore everybody. So we'll see if they're able to make the adjustments needed, because I know Oklahoma's defense is going to be better with Venables over there. And most of the sharp people that I've spoken with, including yourself and I, we pretty much all are leaning toward Oklahoma most likely winning the Big 12 this season as a bounce back and a clap back to everyone thinking that they're washed because Lincoln Riley is gone. What were the totals? Did you get the win totals on Oklahoma? Did you see the win totals?
Let me pull that up right now.
The win totals
Oklahoma. I'm scrolling down. It's college. You got to scroll for a while. Okay. Here we go. Oklahoma State is 8.5. Oklahoma is 9.5 there.
Yeah, 9.5.
Used to the under, which is interesting.
What's the under?
It's minus 135 on the under, plus 115, because they'll move the juice before they actually move the total. So it looks like the under is taking money at this 9.5 number.
Yeah, I didn't see. I saw 10 wins when I looked at their schedule, but once again, with
10 at minus 110 and 9.5 at minus 135 is about the same.
Yeah, I saw 10 wins when I looked at the schedule personally, but we're basing this on the fact that we're dealing with a new head coach now, and he's never had these quick decisions that he's going to have to make in some of these games, and we'll see how he responds to that. All right, so let's get to the NFL now. We're going to check out the NFC South, do a quick preview of the NFC South, which I'm looking for my Saints to pull off at a plus 300 that I already got the ticket on, and I also rode with your guy Tyler and took over 3.5 conference in division wins. Excuse me. Yeah.
In a weird turn of events here, BetOnline is not running a win total. Let me switch over to Bookmaker. I've been going the win totals off BetOnline just because their format's a little easier for me to use during the show. Let's see what they have for Bookmaker's my favorite book. I like the BetOnline format a little better though. Let's see what they have. But regardless, it was about 10 when I checked last time. They're the favorites to win the conference. We've had this conversation a lot of years in a row though. It feels like this could be the year though, and I'm talking about how long can Tom Brady be a top 5 quarterback in the league? This is just a question we've consistently been answering, and we've doubted him, and he's come through. But we know that they moved this up to 11. It's 11 right now on Bookmaker for the team win totals. But we know that I know it's Tom versus time, and he's got the great documentary. But we know the time's going to win eventually. The question is when is the win going to happen? So, what do you think about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I know you had some good thoughts when we spoke earlier, but let's reinforce those things on why Tampa Bay might not be the same level of contender that they were last year.
The problem Tampa Bay is going to have is going to be they were weakened, during training camp at the place that they needed to be the strongest, and that's right up the middle with the offensive line.
And they lost a guard since we spoke, right?
Yes. That's what I'm saying. They just lost him, and they lost the captain of the line, Ryan Jensen. He's the heart and soul of that line. He's Brady's guy. He's, the type of relationships these quarterbacks have with their centers, especially when it's a veteran center who understands the calls, who understands how to keep his quarterback clean. And Jensen was definitely that guy. I just see a lot of problems for the Bucs this season, including in their division, as we spoke about on your other show when I came on as a guest last week. Unfortunately for all the NFC South teams, they have a horrible draw as far as their matchups this year. They have the AFC North and the NFC West. Those are two pretty difficult divisions to have to go on your schedule and go play. especially when it gets cold after after November, and you have to go travel to the AFC North and deal with Baltimore and Pittsburgh and things like that, and even Cincinnati and Cleveland. So, with that said, I just feel like this is going to be the year that my guy finally hits a cliff. I'm a big fan of Brady. You can only respect what he's done throughout his career. I've been a fan of his since I remember back when I was a youngster betting man, and he was at Michigan, and he wasn't getting the run and the love he was supposed to get, and those type of things fueled to the type of career he had. I remember they were so in love with Drew, whatever his name was. I forgot. He got some run with the Cowboys. What was his name?
Drew Stanton.
No, not Drew Stanton. That's not right.
The guy, wasn't he on the Yankees too?
Yeah, it's not Stanton. No, it's Drew.
It isn't? Okay,
Henson. Henson.
Oh, okay.
Henson.
Excuse me.
I
don't know why I mixed that up. Okay.
Yeah, Drew Stanton, I think, is a ball player, a baseball player, maybe. But
that's Henson what Stanton ended up doing, right? Well, anyway,
yes, it's Drew Henson. Okay. Yes, Drew Henson. No, it's Drew Henson. So Drew Henson was the big quarterback, and Brady had already led them to a bowl win. I think the Citrus Bowl or something the year before, and Drew Henson came in, and they automatically just gave him the position. So Brady has dealt and overcame a lot. He's everything that Baker Mayfield wished that he was, with being able to overcome these things. The difference is Brady is actually 6'4", a real 6'4", can stand in the pocket and really throw that ball. And he's probably the best pocket guy we've seen ever in the league, because the way he knows how to set up his blocks. Even though he's not that fleet of foot, he could always maneuver himself in the pocket to get throwing alleys and also make it easier for his lineman to block for him. So don't ever think that I don't have so much respect for Brady. He's won me so much money over the years in the NFL. So I have a lot of respect, but all great things come to an end. And what I'm just hoping is that he doesn't get carried off the field this year, because with those offensive line problems that they have, with the running game not as good as it was before, and with the new head coach, I know Byron Leftwich will still be over the offense, and he knows what he's doing and everything, but it's just a lot of turnover when it comes to some important places that are really vital to Brady being able to beat Tom Brady. So I think that's going to hurt him some, and I just hope he doesn't get injured or anything due to his lack of protection this year. I know that he's going to have some problems dealing with the Saints defense when they play each other. They already own them. The Saints have won the last 4 to 5 championships in the NFC South, and I expect them to claim the title back from the Bucs this year. The Bucs have never beaten them in the regular season as long as Tom Brady's been the quarterback. He only beat them in the playoffs. So the Bucs go as Brady goes, because as we know, what were the Bucs before he got there? So without him, they're back to being the Bucs. So I just don't think he has the ability to carry this franchise, as he even showed last year as the season dwindled down, as he was getting a little bit weaker and weaker with his passes as the season went on, and they were having more problems scoring. You remember the game that they lost in the playoffs. They didn't score any points, I think, until like the third quarter. And they only had, I think, 3 points in the first half in that game against the Rams. And then they roared back at the end in the second half and competed. But the game really wasn't close in the first half. So I just think we see more of that, of what we saw at the end of last season with the Bucs. And they do have good defense. I expect their defense to actually be better now that Bowles is actually running the team. But I just don't know what his philosophy will be. He was a losing coach with the Jets. He didn't show me anything with the Jets to make me think that his philosophies are going to change much with him being an older coach. It's just going to boil down basically to, can they keep Brady clean? If they can keep Brady clean, now can Brady produce at the same level he's been producing for the last 20 years, which I don't doubt that he can, but I also doubt that he can. We will see this year.
Well, one thing that the Bucs were before Tom Brady is a team led by Jameis Winston, and now you're liking a team led by Jameis Winston to maybe upset the Bucs and win the title here. They're the second favorite in the division, about plus 300 to win the division. Win total set at 8.5, but you like them to do better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season. Let's hear why.
First of all, I like them to do better than the Bucs just simply because of the head-to-head they've had over the last years. Even since Brady's been there, the Saints have dominated the matchups. And also, I think that the Saints really want to show the Bucs that this is their division. The Saints have won, like I said, 4 of the last 5 years in the NFC South. Pretty much the same team that's won those prior 4 is back, and everyone's pretty much still in their prime. Cam Hayward maybe is coming to the end of his prime, but he's still a top-notch defensive end right now. He still has a mold. He still can get around the end. I just think that the Saints are a more complete team. I think that Jameis Winston gets a horrible rap. He's won on every level, won state championships, was state player of the year in Alabama, won at Florida State, Heisman Trophy winner, won the national championship, MVP of the national championship game, #1 pick. No one's ever questioned, was it a bad pick picking him #1? He's never been considered a bust. Just had a couple years, really one in specific, where he threw those 30 interceptions, and he's gotten a bad rap ever since then. A lot of times we deal with media with these media writers are clowns to me, a lot of them, because what they do is they put their personal feelings about a player and inject it into their writings and mix that with a couple of stats, and now they paint a whole portrayal of these players that sometimes isn't just what it is. Jameis Winston has never been a dummy. He's never been a bad player. He's not this goofy guy that they try to make him. He's a team leader. He's a smart guy that knows football. He just has an unorthodox way of communicating and doing things. But his teammates have always loved Jameis Winston. I put the 30 interceptions that he had that season on the corporate who it deserves to be on, and that's the former coach of the Tampa Bay Bucks, who's no longer there now, Mr. No Risky, No Biscuit.
He's actually with the team still. He's just no longer the coach.
Aaron's, he's with the team, but he's no longer allowed on the field.
Which is weird.
Tom Brady. That's Tom Brady.
Well, yeah.
See,
I'm just saying, usually when a guy leaves, he leaves altogether.
Well, Jason Light is the GM of the Buccaneers. Jason Light was Tom Brady's offensive tackle when Brady won like his first Super Bowl or first 2 Super Bowls. Him and Jason Light are buddy. We forget because Brady's so old, he's the same age as the GM, so yeah. That's his buddy. So he's when told Jason Light, like, hey man, I can't mess with Aaron's. He's gonna get me killed, but he's been able to get away with it before because he was dealing with a GM who respected him as, the guy he has 30, 40 years experience as the offensive coordinator and coach in the league. So they let him pretty much do what he wanted to do. But his style got Carson Palmer killed. He got. It
would have got Ben killed if he wasn't bigger than most linebackers.
Exactly. He sends out too many people in routes. He doesn't believe in max protection at all. And lots of times you end up with a running back having to block either a blitzing linebacker, a blitzing slot, or a DN, and when they have to block him, which is usually easy beat, your quarterback gets killed if he doesn't make a quick enough read, and if the receiver's head isn't on a swivel and gets around quick enough, you're taking a lot of punishment. He wants you to hold the ball and trust your blocking, and he likes 7-step. He likes to throw the ball deep. He loves the 20-yard seam routes, the 20-yard ends, the deep post. He likes to throw the ball deep, and it takes time to do that. And if you're only blocking with 5 people, you got a quarterback who's not mobile, like all 3 of those guys were Carson Palmer, Winston, and Brady, then they're going to take hits. Brady's just the only one that had enough clout that could get him out of there. So Brady, as you notice, when they won the Super Bowl, they changed the whole offense. Brady basically took control of the offense there down with Byron Leftwich, and they pretty much just ran Josh McDaniels' offense from New England. That's pretty much why they won, because they switched up everything and started going with more efficient, quicker plays, because Bruce Arians was about to get Brady out of the league 3 years earlier, with taking so many hits. He threw for the most interceptions in his career under Arians. So I put Bruce Arians' philosophy is the reason why a lot of people thinking Jameis Winston is this big bonehead turnover, and also with the media, because they're still pissed with him about the stuff that occurred in college with him getting the sexual assault charges and him with stealing the crabs and all that stuff. And, some people like to sit on, their high horse or sit in their glass homes and throw rocks, and they enjoy to see when people fall, and they feel so terrible about themselves. They can't wait that when someone else falls to now, make a big deal out of it and and really like they're speaking to themselves when they're writing about other people. You know, they're saying all the things they want to say to themselves, and taking it out on someone else, man. And I think that's what Jameis Winston was a victim with the media just piling on. They couldn't wait to see him fail after he threw the 30 interceptions. Now they're thinking about the crab, the sexual assaults, the eat the W's and all that, and just, made him into this complete caricature of the person that I know that I believe that he is, and that I believe that his parents raised him to be, and that I believe that his teammates in New Orleans. He had 14 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in the limited play last year. That's
5-2 record, which is probably the most important stat.
Yeah. So I really expect big things from Jameis. As you know, the Saints are loaded on both sides. You can't tell me a roster more loaded with players than the Saints right now. On offense, you got Alvin Kamara, who won't be facing suspension for what happened in Las Vegas. He's probably the most versatile running back in the league right now. He can catch, block, and he can run the ball. He's a threat anytime he touches the ball. Then you on the outside, you have Michael Thomas coming back. As I was saying on your show last week, he's thrilled to play. The reason he wasn't playing because him and Drew Brees weren't seeing eye to eye. Now that that's over with, he was very upset about the comments Drew Brees made when all that stuff was going on with the social justice issues and stuff. And he felt like Drew Brees stepped out of line by speaking about it. And now Michael Thomas is happy. He's healthy. He's ready to play. He wants to show the league that he's still a number one receiver, and I think he will this year. I expect him to have over 100 catches. He's a technician. You got Jarvis Landry working out the slot, who's a technician. And then you have a Lavergne and Deontay Hardy, who are both guys who run 4.2s, taking the top off the defense. The only thing that the Saints it boils down to is kind of similar to Oklahoma, like we spoke about. Now, can their defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, go from being just a one-sided ball guy to really managing the whole situation and being the head coach, because he has everything he needs on his defense. He's going to have Honey Badger already added to probably the best defense in the league. Now you got a mind like his in the secondary to go along with a mind like DeMario Davis at the linebacker. Veterans, like I said, with Cam Hayward, one of the best defensive minds in the league that's finally healthy this year. I expect a lot from the Saints, man. I'm hearing that Paulson Adibso, he's the cornerback is really looking great. Marshawn Lattimore is probably the most underrated cornerback in the league. Ask Mike Evans if he's a top 5 cornerback. So I like what I see from the Saints. It's just now, how does Dennis Allen do as the head guy? He's an emotional guy, like most of these D coordinators. The only D coordinator, man, that I've noticed that runs teams like an offensive guy is my guy to Buffalo. He's the only one. Every other guy that's a defensive coordinator, they're like Rex Ryan. They have all this emotional stuff going. You know what I mean? I even see that from Venables when he was with Clemson. Let's see if he can switch that up at Oklahoma, and I'll be interested to see if Dennis Allen no longer is going at it with Brady on the sidelines. Now he's, more just, running the whole operation. But we'll see. I expect a lot from Dennis Allen because he kind of comes from a situation like Josh McDaniels, like his predecessor, Sean Payton, where he was a coach too young. He got the, head coach position when he was a kid. And I think that prepared him for now. And like most of them, he was with the Raiders. He was the Raiders head coach for a little while. And, that's usually a good starting ground under Al Davis, and I'm sure that prepared him for what he's about to do this season. So I like the Saints a lot, especially at plus 300.
All right, let's talk about a team that I feel like I'm in lockstep with a lot of people on the previews here, and why not? Because a lot of the reasons these teams either exceed or fail to meet expectations is due to injuries and things changing during the course of the season. But one thing I'm different on the preseason is the Carolina Panthers. I think they're going to be pretty good. They're total 6.5 here. Not a lot of people are high on the Panthers, and I'll give you my reasons why, and then you can go ahead and break it down. But number one, I didn't like Baker as the top quarterback, a guy you give $30 million to, but just as like a placeholder, which is essentially what he is, because I don't think anyone sees him as the future of the franchise. I think he'll do pretty well. I think the defense, which wasn't bad last season, will be even better. I think half the reason they'll be better is there won't be so many 3-and-outs. So if there's a little bit more time there, to me, McCaffrey, you can't necessarily count on him playing, but if he does play, they're going to be pretty good. I think they've given Baker some weapons here, and the expectations really aren't that high. A lot of people are down on this Carolina Panthers team. I like the over here, but a lot of people like the under. What are your thoughts on the Panthers?
I'm on the under. I'm not a big Baker Mayfield guy, and it's not that he doesn't try hard. I think he's going to be a phenomenal backup in the league if he can ever adjust to that. I could see him being just like Gardner Minshew, a guy who can come in and electrify your team, energize your team for 2-3 games out the year if something happens to the starter, or even if the starter isn't playing well, he'll be a great relief pitcher. The problem with Baker, and I saw it at Oklahoma, and that's why I always felt like he was a third-round pick. He should have never been a first round, especially not a number one pick. Baker doesn't have anything about him that sticks out or shines in the NFL athletically. It's nothing that you can go to about him and say, wow, about. They say the accuracy, he's a pretty accurate guy. I give him that. Well, if you remember before he got injured, he was pretty accurate, but I also saw him make some bad throws and panic in a lot of big games, and the games that really, really mattered in the playoffs. If it came down to Baker being the guy where we have to come back, we have to go get a field goal, we have to go get a touchdown, he rarely was able to do it. He wasn't able to lift his team up. He wasn't able to be a puller. He has to be a guy who just manages the team, where the running game and everything like that is the go-to, is the first option. And what he does is sprinkle in some play action, sprinkle in some first down passes where the defense isn't sitting on the pass. It's just he just physically struggles in the NFL because he just isn't physically capable of getting on the level that's needed to be a superstar quarterback. He's a walk-on, pretty much the best walk-on in the history of sports, because he's done some great things. He's pushed the team. I like his moxie. I like, how much he cares. I like that he doesn't care about what people think about him. He's going to keep plugging. But it's just you're limited by what you can do. You can have all of that fight, all that feistiness about you, but if you can't play, you just can't play. And I remember I was telling you about that earlier, about the fact that I remember on Twitter when Kyler Murray was drafted, I was telling some guys who were like Oklahoma guys that Kyler Murray would be a better pro than Baker, and they pretty much laughed at me. He thought it was a joke because they bought the hype. What Baker Mayfield is like as a guy who goes and you apply for a job and you impress your boss so much that you get a job that you weren't even prepared for. You see that all the time in corporate America, and that's pretty much what happened to him. He impressed the guys. They wanted him to be the guy because they liked him. They liked what they saw on the TV and screen at Oklahoma. They liked how he planted the flag at Ohio State, and when they met him, he can go to the whiteboard and he can speak like a coach because he's so smart when it comes to game plans and stuff. And they just, they fell for it. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have anything special about him enough to say, okay, this is the top quarterback in the league. He's just an average passer. He's an average scrambler. He's average, at everything that he does, and average isn't good enough in the NFL to be a starting quarterback. So I'm not going to be high on Carolina simply because I'm not high on Baker Mayfield. Matt Rule is just going through the motions. He'll be back in college after this year. One of the top jobs that comes up, they'll give him a job, and he'll do really well in college, and maybe he'll be smart enough to understand that he should have probably stayed with Baylor because this NFL, it isn't like college. In college, you can kind of, go pick your guys and, go get who you want and load up in certain. NFL, you're restricted by what your owner can do, and what your franchise can do. In Carolina, no matter what people try to say, Carolina's Cam Newton. That's the only thing they've ever been in their existence. The only time they've ever mattered is when Cam Newton.
No love for Jake Delhomme?
No love. Even though, think about it. They went to the Super Bowl and lost to Brady and probably gave Brady the best game he played in the Super Bowl, right, with Seattle, the Seattle game, and the Philly beat them and stuff, and the Giants. They lost by a last-second field goal, played their tails off, and no one remembers that team. My only person I can tell you from that team is Delhomme, and that's because he's from Louisiana like myself. And he's kind of legend around the school, a school that I attended for a short period of time. It was Southwest Louisiana back then. Now it's called University of Louisiana Lafayette. And Mushin Muhammad. And the only reason I remember him is because he burnt the hell out of Deion Sanders, and Deion was my hero. And in the playoffs, he handled the shit out of Deion. Like he ran like a slant and like big faced him and threw him down and took it to the house. And I was like, oh man, Deion's finished. That was when I knew Deion was finished in that playoff. So that's kind of the only reason why I remember him. But I don't remember much about that team. But if you think about Carolina, you can always think Cam. Cam was a one-man show, man, and he kind of took them to heights where they really weren't supposed to be. And I think now they're getting back to who they are. Carolina is just like kind of like the one of those, just one of those teams that just came along later on, man. The expansion team, them and Jacksonville, and they're gonna kind of always be in that box, I guess, until they win a championship. To me.
All right, let's talk about a team. Total 4.5 wins for the Atlanta Falcons. They won 7 games last year, which is wild because that team wasn't very good. I'm not high on Matt Ryan. We discussed that when we talked about the Colts. Now they bring in Mariota, who's the guy that I like, but unfortunately, I don't think he's that good. They got Desmond Ridder waiting in the wings. They got some good offensive weapons here with Cordell Patterson, the ultimate Swiss Army knife. Kyle Pitts should have a better year. Had some good games. Had problems getting in the end zone. Remind you of Julio Jones? Maybe that's just an Atlanta thing. And then, of course, they ended Drake London. So they're doing things right with the weapons. We'll see how Ridder turns out. The defense has the talent to at least be average, which is all you need in the NFL if you have a good offense. But unfortunately for this Atlanta Falcons team, they don't have a line again. And with Ryan, that was a huge problem because Ryan was like Flacco now, where he doesn't even move in the pocket, right? They have 2 more mobile guys, but will it be enough? It's one thing to be mobile, but when you're running for your life on every single snap, it gets kind of tough and limits your options here. Atlanta's got a team that I think could surprise if everything were to roll right, because Kyle Pitts, let's say he takes that next step. We loved him last year. We saw a lot of the reasons we saw it last year. He just wasn't getting in the end zone. Drake London should be a nice compliment here. Patterson should continue to do well. I don't see any reason for him to fall off. This line's a big issue, though. What do you think of this Falcons team?
I like them over 4.5 because I like Arthur Smith a lot. I like their coach. I like him. He's a good coach, man. He knows how to get
this. You mean Tannehill good? You should get props for that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Had Tannehill getting money. He owes half his contract probably to him. He knows what he's doing as far as in getting his team in the right matchups. I think it's only going to grow the things he's going to do with Pitts this year. I think last year, I don't know any inside information. Just from what I get from the sidelines, watching them and being a person who reads body language, Arthur Smith seems like he doesn't take a bunch. He seems like he's kind of short-fused with nonsense, And I think what maybe came in is Kyle Pitts, one of those kids who, new generation, doing things a little bit different. It shows up on the field, but maybe like in practice and things like that, he's moving in ways that Arthur Smith doesn't like. So I think that relationship had to grow. And as you saw the season went on, he started calling more and more plays for Pitts. And not to mention Matt Ryan didn't help him at all either. It wasn't like he was looking to him first. Like I said, I think it was maybe a disconnecting somewhere there generationally. But now you got Pitt, you got Drake London, who's a big-time receiver out of USC. Great body control, got hands. Only thing he's coming off an injury, so I don't know how he's going to look coming off that injury because I haven't seen him play since he's been injured, and that's never good, especially coming to the league. That's very tough. I just was speaking when we were speaking of Carolina, Matt Corral. No way Carolina should have drafted him. He's injured already again. He's coming off a major injury. No football before getting drafted. He's smart because you want to go get your check before they're on it. But if you're injured leaving college and your first action again is against pros, it's such a disadvantage because you're thinking and doing all these things on top of being injured, worried about your injury knee. You also don't know what the hell you're doing as far as schematically. So that's very tough on anyone. So I'll be interested to see how Drake London adapts, but he's definitely a baller. When he was at USC, he can go. He wins at the point of attack with the ball. So that's one thing. Mariota, I don't know if he can make it through the whole season. That's what I don't know. But I do like the Ritter from Cincinnati. I didn't know how he was going to look in the NFL, but I was impressed. I know it's just preseason, but still, like I always tell you, Spread, the thing I look for in quarterbacks preseason, regular season, whatever, is, are you shook? Are you afraid to play? Can you handle the contact, the physicality of the NFL? Does it shake you? Does it make you where now you're just nervous? And he wasn't. He's a good player. I think Desmond Ridder's going to end up being the quarterback of that team by mid-season. He's a much better passer than Mariota is, but Mariota will start out strong. I'm afraid for my Saints to actually win that first game at Atlanta.
That's one of them rivalry games where you throw the records out.
No way I'm giving up 5.5. And we might end up, since I'm not betting it, we probably win by like 40 and I look crazy as hell. But if I bet it, they're going to lose. So I'm not going to even bet it, because that's going to be a tricky game, because Arthur Smith is going to bring a brand new offense that the Saints have seen none of. I could tell by just a little couple of glimpses of the stuff they're running in preseason. They're going to be a different offense, man, than they had when they were running with Ryan at the quarterback. He's going to use a lot of mobility with the quarterback and use it to his advantage, man. He's going to have a lot of misdirection stuff where you're running this way and that way, a lot of sweeps, a lot of reverses. Yes, like you said, the Swiss Army knife and Cordell Patterson, only running back with number 84 in the league, you know. So they're going to be doing some crazy, crazy things in Atlanta, and I'm really excited to see what their offense is going to look. Hey, did she show back up again?
Yeah, she there she is.
Hey, every time we talk NFC, she's pulled it up. She likes NFL.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I do think Atlanta can go over on that win total of 4.5, and I think that they got the right guy in Desmond Ridder as their quarterback, and I think he'll be the quarterback by mid-season. And I like
kind of easy for Arthur Smith, though, right? You just run Mariota till he gets injured, and then the decision's kind of made for you. There's no locker room stuff. There's no, hey, you got to go to the bench. It's, hey, get in the injury reserve room, go check with the trainer, and then I'll let the young kid go. But even 3 or 4 games, on the sideline, I think is going to help this kid. You know, Cincinnati, they did really well last year, but that's not like coming out of the SEC where you're playing NFL level defenses week in and week out. So the more time he can get in practice, just getting those reps in, I think it's going to be really important for him. And I'm not necessarily high in Atlanta overall, but since the books are just so low on them, I agree with you here. This 4.5 is too low for a team that won 7 games last year, and it's hard for me to argue that they're worse.
No, they're better this year. They're better.
I think so too.
I think they're better.
Yeah, I think so too. So
yeah. Well, that's we preview now the Big 12, and we previewed the NFC South. You got any picks on the Ball and Parlay tonight, Spread?
No, I was telling you earlier when we talked, I'm taking today off tennis. These first rounds of these other tournaments, they're just wild. I mean, like if you just like need action, you can load up on some underdogs here, because these tournaments get wild this week. But I'll be honest, I went over the card today. Mm-hmm. I didn't really like a lot of it, but it's a lot of the lower level players, and I don't watch ITF. I don't really handicap ITF. I know there's people who do, and you can't exploit that market. You got to really be patient. Those limits are low, and you're going to get banned and kicked off pretty quickly. So half the grind of betting ITF isn't handicapping the matches. It's finding people to take your action, which kind of where it's lost the appeal for me. So nothing for me today, but tomorrow we'll be back on it. I'm definitely going to watch all day. Let's see who's here to win this week, who just got the appearance fee. Because that's always tough to navigate sometimes, right? Some of these players get $250K to show up, but they don't really want to play this tournament this week. They want to get to New York and get ready for next week. The U.S. Open's next week, and that's essentially the end of the tennis season. Now, hardcores like you and me know that it keeps going. They'll have a Chicago event. They used to play in Asia, which I used to do really well on, but with Shui Peng, the issue there, the WTA is like, we're not going. We're not going to your country. So I don't know who got all those tournaments. So there still will be some tennis, but for most fans, I think the season ends with the U.S. Open next week, and the players know that the fans feel that way, and they're all getting ready for that tournament. And that's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, yeah, I'm already so pissed. I was about to put in the Kansas City Royals for the first five and for the game. Instead, I usually take like a morning. I'll give out to my clients first inning no run on a lot of morning games, and they usually hit. Of course, I didn't get in the Kansas City, but I got in the first inning no run, and Kansas City's up 4-0. So in the first inning. So so it happens, man. But I do have a play for the people for tonight. We got some NFL football coming on, some Monday night football. We're gonna go with the Atlanta Falcons first half -2.5 at the lowly New York Jets. As we were just speaking about, I like Arthur Smith a lot. I think he'll be playing his starters at least the first quarter because their team is trying to, build some continuity, get used to playing with each other. New offense that they're going to be running, new quarterback at the helm. And even if Mariota doesn't get a lot of run, I'm very confident in Desmond Ridder, what he could do. The Jets, I don't know if they're going to start Mike White or not, or they're going to start Flacco tonight. Mike White can play, though. So Mike White, if he's playing this game, it might get a little tight because he can play, but I'm hoping he comes in the second half and finishes up the game for them. But I still, regardless if he starts or not, I do like what Arthur Smith can come up with the Falcons. I think they'll be able to put some points up against the Jets tonight. Monday Night Football, the Falcons are rarely on Monday night. I'm sure they'll be hyped for it. I'm sure the Jets will be too, but I just think the Falcons are a little bit more talented, and I really like what their coach does offensively. I think he'll be able to get them in the end zone a couple times in the first half, and that'll be just enough to get over that -2.5 and win the first half by 3 or more. So in the Ball and Parlay today, we're going to take Falcons first half -2.5 over the Jets for preseason Monday Night Football. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow to break down the Big Ten, and we might have a guest. We'll see. But we definitely look forward to speaking to you soon. Follow my guy Spread Astaire at Spread Astaire. Follow me at 5-Star in Vegas. Subscribe to the Wagering World. We'll be here every day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Excuse me, those 3 days out the week during the football season. Mondays we'll be doing a lot of look aheads to the week coming up, and also reviewing the games of the past weekend. Wednesdays we'll be bringing in a sports director from Las Vegas, a prominent sports director that we'll be announcing the day of. And then on Friday, we'll be giving out our best picks for the weekend. We look forward to talking to you guys soon. Best of luck to you all.